I better go over there, so I can't get around the... Excuse me.
Welcome to the Innovation Center Iceland. My name is Mjöll and I work for Enterprise Europe Network here at the Innovation Center. We have the great privilege to invite you to this event with the entrepreneur and innovator Terry Jones. He began his career as a travel agent and spent 10 years in product marketing at American Airlines and the next 10 in information technology. Terry then became Chief Information Officer of American Airlines Sabre. These experiences combined prepared him to become the CEO of Travelocity, which he led from a team of 6 people to a $3 billion public company. Terry retired from Travelocity when it was taken private and then helped found kayak.com, where he was chairman for 7 years until it was sold to Priceline for $1.8 billion. Terry is the managing principal of On Inc., a consultancy he founded to help companies in their transition to the digital economy. He has served on over 13 boards and is the author of his best-selling book, On Innovation. Terry is a proven innovator and the holder of several patents. He is here today to share his ideas on innovation and change. Please welcome Terry Jones.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you are in startups? We're here. Okay. So I have to read something that I just got because I thought it was hilarious. This is from a startup that I funded on GoFundMe, and it says, "It's been a while. Our slow development pace is primarily due to the company's limited funding, as well as to critical mistakes during hardware development, which could have been avoided with more hindsight." Now, those of you who speak English as a native language know that you can't avoid something with hindsight. You can only avoid something with foresight. So, too bad for them that they only have their hindsight now. After they have done their development. This is a new topic for me because the topic they gave me was how to get noticed. So the idea is, how do you get somebody to care about your startup? So I thought back to when we started Travelocity. It was a little different time. You could do a press conference back then about an internet site and actually have people to come. Because there were so few internet sites. But, you know, you can still get the attention of the press and the media if you have something new and unusual. In those days, this was. Some of the startups I saw this morning are new and unusual and different. And whether it's through Twitter or social media, you perhaps can get people to pay attention. So one of the things that we did at Travelocity was, of course, we made products for our customers, and that was our primary focus. But we also had a group that we called Quick Hits. And those were the people who developed and delivered something in less than a month. And, you know, we learned, of course, that the amount of time and money you spend on development doesn't matter in terms of its customer impact. The customer doesn't care how much time or how much money you spend. They only care about what they care about. What does it do for them? So sometimes we would develop things just to see what would happen. So here's a product we developed. And remember, this was 20 years ago, but it gives you an idea. This said, tell us how much money you have, and we'll tell you where you can go. Because having worked in the airline business for 20 years, I can tell you, airline prices have nothing to do with distance. You can fly coast to coast in the United States today for $250. That is the same price you could fly coast to coast 40 years ago. But if you fly from Los Angeles to Reno, where I live, which is a 40-minute flight, it cost $300. So price has no relationship to distance. So here, we could show people, it's hard for me to see the amount. For $300, from St. Louis, Missouri, you can fly to Boston for $100. You can fly to Florida for $200. No one had ever showed them airfares like this. So not only did we get a lot of press, but several newspapers, including the New York Times, said, can you feed us this information every week that we can publish in the newspaper? Now again, that was a long time ago. Nobody publishes much on paper anymore. But the idea is right. So the idea is, if you do something novel, in this case, not a lot of customers use this feature, but the press was all over it. We got a tremendous amount of press from this. We also really aggressively promoted, our innovative products. So for example, we invented paging people when their flight was late. Again, this was a long time ago when people had pagers and they had phones that looked like that, right? But no one had ever done that before, right? So again, we got tremendous number of articles and ad buys from people who said, wow, this is different. So today I talked to startups, for example. There was one that, I don't know if they're here, that was teaching kids how to play music with gamification. I talked to another guy who was doing Twitter analysis. And I said to both of them, you have something, and use the Twitter guy, for example, could actually look and see what was happening through his filters and create news, right? He could say, hey, this is happening here. The music app, I've never seen a gamification music app like that. It's unusual enough to get attention. In those days, you have to think again, we were trying to give people things they couldn't get on the telephone. That was our principal competition. So for example, we created a product, and this one was heavily used. We will send you an email when the fare goes down in the city that you're looking at. No physical travel agent had ever done that. The other day, I didn't put this in here, I just thought of it. I got an email from Zappos, the shoe company. And they said, this Subo shoe that you like, I actually have it on right now. They're not going to make it anymore. We have 2 left in your size. Would you like one? Of course, I bought both, right? Has your shoe store ever called you on the phone? No, never. So again, using data to do something new and different will get you noticed. We invented seat maps. We were the first company ever to have seat maps. It turns out this is the most used page on Travelocity. People really care about where they sit. So what we should have done was use our database to sell options on who sits next to you. Would you like a blonde? $50. Would you like not to have a baby? $200, right? We didn't do that, but still, visually appealing. This got on TV and it got in print because it was unusual and it was visual. So think about if your application has something visual, then perhaps you can get it on TV. Again, another thing that when we started out, 60% of internet users worried about the security of their credit card. People would not, in 1996, put a credit card online because they were afraid it will be stolen as it was transmitted. I'm not sure in 2019 that's ever happened. Yes, they get stolen from a website, but they don't get stolen through the ether. It's just not profitable. So what did we do? We created a guarantee. In the US, if your credit card is stolen, you are liable for the first $50, and the bank pays the rest. So we said, we'll pay the $50. We never had to pay. But people bought because they believed it was safe. We also had a phone number that people could call. If they were afraid to put their credit card over the internet, they could call us and we'd take their credit card and we'd put it in over the internet. We never told them that. But again, it was about the customer's pain point. I'm going to come back to that. Because what you're trying to solve here is what is painful for the customer now to do. If you relieve their pain, they will reward you with money. We did almost anything for public relations. You can see me with a dog on my head on the company. That was Photoshop, thank God. But and here we went to several airports and we actually paid people's parking. When they came out, said, "Give me your parking ticket, I'll pay your parking. I'm Travelocity." It was just, a guerrilla way of marketing to get noticed. We were small. We didn't have much money. If you can go to conferences and speak, that's terrific. The conference market has changed. It used to be you could speak for free. Now many conferences charge you to speak. But still, if you can go and speak or be on a panel, do it. It's cheap. And if you're on a panel, they can't tell you what to say. So no matter what question they ask, just say what you want, right? Same thing is true on television and radio. Doesn't matter what question they ask, you give your point. You can answer their question, but just continue with your point. They can't. Print is different. With print, I just did a 40-minute interview. He's going to print what he wants. Radio and television, they don't even listen to what you say. Doesn't matter. The question is this, oh, thank you. Now here's my answer. Right? Doesn't make any difference. So, just doing things like, it's hard to see here, print, like ShopSafe and flight paging. We were on CNN, NBC, ABC, lots of hits, because it was different. So think about, what do you have that's different? We even got American Airlines to let us print our ad on their napkin. We were a competitor, but they didn't even know it yet, right? So they let us buy their napkin for almost a year till they figured out, oh, they're a competitor, right? And we did things like this when we launched Travelocity in the UK. We lit up buildings, right? It wasn't expensive. Nobody had ever done that before. How to tell if your brand has arrived, if people are listening? Well, the question here is, the answer is Travelocity.com. I think the question is something about low fares. But we were actually an answer in the New York Times crossword puzzle. That to me said, okay, people know who we are. I also did something that I think could still be done today. I was at the NASDAQ, the electronic stock market, and I noticed that all the press guys had very small offices, probably about this big, and they all had a camera mounted on the wall. And that's how they would do their remote, right? So you've seen Wolf Blitzer would say, "We take you now to the NASDAQ, what's happening?" And the guy would be standing there, in front of this little blue thing, and he would talk. I said, why can't we do that? So we took an office, and we built a studio, and you can see my bald head. It looked like that. It was remoted. I have my talking points up there. And I could be on the air in 5 minutes. Now, and today, people do it all the time with Skype, right? How did we get noticed? One of the things that happened was that Travelocity was the first national travel agency with a database. Because we had a database, we knew something about our customers. So we could come out with a press release that said, it's spring. The #1 destination in the world is Jamaica for $200. No one else really knew that. Some of the airlines knew, but really only the ones that went to Jamaica. The other airlines didn't know. We knew because we had a national view. So we started doing press releases. Now think about, some of you, again, like my friend with a Twitter startup, has the potential of gathering lots of data from, let's say, tweets in Iceland, and understanding what a trend is. Therefore, he could make releases. You run a guide company. Okay, so, our data shows from 10,000 guides that the most popular attraction now in Iceland is this. That'll get published with your name. And, you may be able to get video. So for us, it was terrifically successful. Actually, right after the terrible incidents of 9/11 in the United States, people, they implemented a lot of security at the airports. So people suddenly, their bags were being searched, themselves were being searched, they were being x-rayed, and no one knew how long it would take to get through security. And some of the lines were an hour long. So at the Thanksgiving holiday, I put people in 22 airports with stopwatches to measure the lines. And then we had that live on the homepage of Travelocity. Here's how long the wait is. Nobody had ever done that before. I got a call from CNN, and they said, would you be on the air every hour, 24 hours a day for the next 2 days? I said, let me think about that. Yes, I will do that. So I was on CNN day and night. They sent a remote crew down, and I had to talk and give a little patter and, how is it going, Bob, in Los Angeles and that kind of stuff. It was a tremendous amount of publicity from a very simple idea. And I think this one is, B-roll. Anybody here know what B-roll is? Hey, you do. Okay, you do. You're in the business. So B-roll is video that you shoot of something, in our case, a product. So we shot a bunch of video without any audio about flight paging. So we showed someone going to the airport, and all of a sudden his phone beeps, and he looks, and he goes, oh my God, and it shows plane is delayed. And now he changes his plans, right? We released that with a little script to TV stations all over the United States. And amazingly, they run it. Because in the US market at least, there are so many cable news outlets and so many cable channels that they're constantly looking for things to run. And they're also very lazy. So if you give them B-roll, they will run it. It's almost like getting a commercial without paying for it. Now, I don't know what it's like here in this market. If you go to the US market, you can still do that. They will still run it. And we even did some that were completely produced. So I did one called The Anatomy of a Fare War. What is an airline fare war? How does it work? And how do you know when one is happening? Well, of course, the way you know is to look on Travelocity, right? But we produced it with audio, and all they would do is run it, and then at the end, some anchor would say, this is Bob Smith reporting about fare wars. Well, of course, he didn't do anything at all except say that, but that's okay because it ran. So the whole idea about getting noticed is to take something, whether it's the Twitter program or your guide program or the music program or the meditation program I saw today. I mean, there's one using VR for meditation. Very unusual. I don't think anybody's done that. They ought to be able to get a lot of PR and get noticed because it's odd. It's different. And so think about what stands out. Now, today, of course, the world has changed. The world is driven by Twitter. It's driven by social media. But traditional media hasn't gone away. I mean, I just got interviewed by a physical paper. Think of that, right? Still in business, still publishing. TV is bigger than ever. Most of it's watched on your phone. That's okay. And what can you do with YouTube? I mean, anybody here know Harry's Shave Club? So Harry's Shave Club is a United States company that started selling shavers, men's razors, by subscription. Because in the US market, Gillette had gotten to the point where you pay $20 US for 3 blades. They were selling the same thing for $3, and they would mail it to your house. Because the manufacturing cost was 20 cents for both of them, right? And who needs 7 blades? I mean, I don't need any blades, but most people need blades. Their popularity, and you should go look at Harry's Shave Club on YouTube, came almost entirely through radically funny YouTube videos. It went like wildfire. So word of mouth is incredibly important. Getting word of mouth is very hard, right? And only 1 in 10,000 products or more is viral. But think about it. If your product is exceptional, you don't need to advertise. How many people here like the latest Tesla ad? You've never seen a Tesla ad. Tesla ad. They never run ads.
No, not from them directly, no.
That's right. They've never run an ad. Did you like the new Airbnb ad? No. Did you like the new Uber ad? Now there are a few. But until this year, my friend Dara took over, they've never had an ad. Why not? They have an amazing product, and it grew totally through word of mouth. So if you have the best thing, you will get noticed, right? You can get noticed, but it's pretty hard. Now we did some television, and let me play just a little clip here.
Lowest fare available.
I made it.
Seat 9A, window. Convertible.
It's
Travelocity.com.
But you can see at
Go
the end, there was a
virtually
calendar
anywhere.
there. So we did a little bit of the sexy, be in some amazing place, but also it showed you were online. Now the ad agency wanted to do all palm trees and beaches. And we said, look, we're not trying to get people to travel. We're trying to get people to use our product. So we better show them what it is. So if you have an ad agency, argue with them. They'll want to do great creative about something. It better show your product. Sometimes it won't. We also did radio, a lot of radio actually, because at least in my market, the US market, people still drive a long way. But listen to what this ad is about.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
Now why do we do that? Because we were competing against physical travel agents. And the number one thing they said they had were humans. We had humans, but nobody knew we had humans. So it's tougher, too expensive to tell that story on TV. But radio worked very well to tell people you don't have to be afraid. You can make a booking with us. It's safe. And because people said, gee, the flight will be canceled, like happened to me coming here. I'm a day late. There's someone you can call. So think about, what is it that people are afraid of? Because you don't want to get noticed because you suck, right? You want to get noticed because you've solved the problem before. So you want to have foresight, not this company I was talking about that had pre-hindsight or whatever they had. Now Kayak, and actually I forgot this was here, but this is my point about Tesla. Kayak really did no advertising for our first 7 years. None. No traditional advertising. We only did search. Now search was cheaper then, and you could arbitrage keywords, but all we did was search and word of mouth. We had a very different product, so we got lots of word of mouth. This was the first product to have filters. Anybody here ever used Kayak? Anybody know about it? Some of you have. So there are lots of filters that allow you to change the times, to select the airline, to sort differently. No one had ever done that before. And we did the same thing with our mobile app. The other thing we did, we decided the differentiation was to be blindingly fast. So we were way faster than everybody else. We also had very short feedback loops. We really listened to what customers were saying on the App Store and what they were saying in emails. So when we built this app, sort of at the beginning of the mobile era, mid-2000s, we thought that a mobile app for travel would be about, I missed my flight, what's the next one? Or the flight got canceled, I need a hotel tonight. Turns out we were wrong. People used it just like the desktop. They were booking 2.5 weeks out. So we were dead wrong. If we hadn't listened, if we hadn't had short feedback loops and immediately written the app, we wouldn't have 50 million customers today. But we do. So don't be arrogant. Don't say they're wrong. I don't care what your opinion is, and no one does either. You only care what the customer's opinion is. So listen carefully and modify quickly. Now, we also did something kind of unusual. At Kayak, we did not have customer service. So Travelocity, you heard the customer service ad. Kayak, we're a search company, no customer service. But we did get emails, and we sent the emails to the engineers. It's kind of unusual. You might say, gee, engineers are expensive. But our slogan was, give the pain to the people who cause the pain, right? The engineers. And that's one of the reasons we went public with only 200 people, because we were very responsive. We also did have a phone number. We'd put it up on the site once or twice a day, and the programmers had to answer the red phone. So they had to deal with people who were upset at bad code. And there's nothing better to straighten out a programmer who thinks he's right than let him talk to a customer who is screaming. It does work. So think about it. And, you know, talking about doing things just for PR, this is my last company. Some of you heard about it yesterday, Wayblazer, an artificial intelligence company. One of the things we did was build a robot with Hilton. It was a robot concierge for hotels. We built it with IBM. And we got paid, you know, like $50,000. It wasn't a lot. We knew it wouldn't be recurring revenue. Why did we do it? Because Hilton and IBM made ads about it. And it had our name on it. So even though it was a good learning experience for us to build a robot, work with a robot, it was kind of a stupid robot, but it was good enough. And it got amazing reviews. They never built a second one. We didn't care, right? So sometimes you can go out of your lane, so to speak, and do something a little different if you get paid enough to cover your costs and you know you're going to get a lot of PR. So I think that's the end of Get Noticed. The other thing I thought about how to get noticed was to talk about how to pitch. You know, how to give a good pitch, at least from my perspective. You have to tell a story. Pitching is telling a story. So your story begins with, we have the most amazing technology that will change the world. No. Do not begin that way. That is not the point. Your technology is not the point. We are the Amazon of, we are the Airbnb of, we are the Uber of, whatever business you're in. No. Don't do that either. You can do that later maybe if the VC says, what do you like? VCs invest in the idea. Is it unique? Is it defensible? Next, or maybe first, they invest in the team. Who do you have? What have they done before? Does anybody care? And then they invest in the growth potential. Is it a big market? Who's the competition? Now, yes, they invest in technology if it's defensible, if it's patented, if it's unique. But that never comes first in my view. What comes first is, what's the problem? What is the problem the customer has? So with Wayblazer, we said, hey, travel planning isn't working. This is a slide from our deck. The average customer visits 38 websites. That's a problem. What's the solution? We solved that problem using machine learning and AI. with data and context and IBM Watson, we deliver personalized results. So there's the problem, there's the solution. We have richer input and richer data, and we solve the customer's problem by giving the right answer to every customer. So please, start with a problem. What is the customer's pain point? Why am I the one to solve it? How do we do it? Okay, then it's okay to talk about travel technology. In this case, our AI-based graph was our secret sauce. You should always have secret sauce that nobody else has. Even if you don't have it somehow. So this was our secret sauce. We explained the technology, how we are different. What are we doing that's different than everything else? Like, we don't read reviews for keywords. We actually come up with concepts. So this is a great, somebody searches for great property or location or hot tub. Even if the words hot tub aren't in there, we're going to find the reviews that reference something like that, or golf. How big is the market? VCs want to invest in a big market. They want you to scale, right? So, and I'll give you these slides at the end. I'll tell you where to get them. So this, travel's a $7 trillion market. We're addressing a $344 billion slice. That's big enough for anybody, right? Who's the competition? You're always in the upper right. You're the best, right? The biggest, the fastest, the smartest, and all those other guys are down there. But they want to know, right? And in travel, people forget that travel is the largest market on the internet, larger than the next 3 categories of commerce combined. How do we make money? Extremely important. In this case, this is our business model. We were SaaS. They want to know what kind of a company you are. How do you make money? This one, a lot of people leave out. How do we get customers? Now, in this case, it's direct sales and resellers. But you need to explain how are you going to drive people to the door. And I go through lots of pitch decks. And they say, we have this great technology. It's a new idea. How are you going to get customers? Well, we haven't thought about that yet. Goodbye. If you don't know how you're going to get a customer, nobody's going to give you money. Proof points, really important. As soon as you can, get proof points. So we talked today, I'll use the music software guys again. They said their software is really good at training kids how to play music. I said, do you have any examples? They said, no. They have anecdotal examples. Well, I said, go out and make a movie. Go out and do an interview, get an article, do a press release. Johnny learned to play the piano in 6 weeks. Whatever it is, you need proof points. So these were hard for us to get. And we took too long to get them in this particular company, but we had good proof points. We increased shopper to buyer ratio 17%. That's a big deal. But you have to have those in order to raise money, particularly if you don't have revenue. It's much better to have revenue than proof points, but to have revenue and proof points is good. If you don't have revenue, have something, right? A roadmap, maybe a roadmap can be good. Where are we going next? What's our long-term vision? I was talking to a guy today in fintech, and he was explaining how they were moving from country to country, and trying to explain that to investors was difficult. So we talked about how to change his roadmap. So many people want to know your roadmap in terms of international expansion, in terms of software features, where you're going to go. This is super important. Who? Who is the team? And it could be anywhere in the deck, but they're going to ask you for it. And what is their experience? Okay? So, we have people from IBM, from Kayak, from Sabre, from American Airlines, from other IT companies. What have they done? And have they failed? Which actually, for many VCs, is good. Yes, their last company failed. Good, they've been through it. I'll hire them. If they're still around, want to do it again, that's a good thing, right? How much money do we need, and why? So we're raising $4 million. funds us through break even. What are we going to do? Hire a revenue officer, go to Europe, hire a better CTO and a data scientist, whatever it is. Put some detail behind it. They know that it's not all going to happen that way, but at least if you want their money, you ought to tell them what you're going to spend it on, right? And then there was a question, I think, in the deck that came to me about IP. And is Harry here, I think? No, Harry's not here. Harry was the lawyer there earlier. He's an IP lawyer. And I think we agreed that, look, if you can afford to apply for patents, do it. You got a year before you really have to spend big money, so you can get provisional patents. They're good. I don't think that patents will raise your valuation by themselves, but they're really good if you sell the company, because they are part of the asset value of your company if you're going to sell it later, particularly if it allows the purchaser to kill off some other people who don't have the patent. But you probably as a startup, well, you definitely as a startup don't have the money to defend your patent anyway. So if you can afford to get them and your product is unique, I'd say do it. If you can't, it's okay. It won't help you. It may help you raise money rather than somebody who doesn't have a patent. It probably won't increase your value then, but it could increase your value when you sell. Yeah, and I'll put up a slide here that shows you where to get the slides. I forgot to do that. Let me have that right here, and ta-da! That's where you can get the slides. And that's where you can get my book, available wherever books are sold. I have a new book coming out called Disruption Off, which will be out in August, maybe before. So thank you very much. And I think we have till 4, so we have a few more minutes. I'm happy to do questions. Yeah?
We're happy to take, or Terry is happy to take questions. We are streaming this, so anyone that wants to ask a question will get the mic from me. Any first questions?
Oh, you're all not afraid. Come on.
Well, thanks a lot. My name is Agnar. I was just wondering, I've heard the phrase probably 10 or 15 times, this has never been done before. Are we still there? Because it was like 20 years ago when you started out. So what's the situation today on the internet?
Are there things
have we done everything now? I know.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we're still seeing new models. I mean, obviously, mobile today is more important than the web itself, because most new web adopters around the world are mobile. So, and you can certainly do things with a mobile platform or the app platform we're not seeing happening on traditional web. But I think the most interesting thing to me that's happening on the internet is really the application of big data and AI. The ability to use natural language search, the ability to use big data to personalize. I think almost every web company, with the exception of Amazon and Netflix, does terrible personalization. They really aren't using their data well. Now for example, 20 years ago at Travelocity, we saved every single search that every customer ever did. And if you searched New York, LA 3 times, I guarantee you'd get an email when the price fell New York to LA. And we're seeing people do even more interesting things. I'm an advisor to a company called Sojourn. And Sojourn started out as a company that did advertising on paper boarding passes. Back when you print your boarding pass at home and they'd put ads there. It wasn't very successful. But they got connected to all the airlines. Now they take that data and use it in retargeting ads that follow you around the internet that say you were looking at Hawaii, and it doesn't say this, but obviously you were looking at Hawaii and Florida, and it knows the date and the price, so therefore it can target an ad to you, to Florida with 2 kids on June 6th. And then as soon as you buy the air ticket, it targets a hotel And as soon as you buy the hotel, it targets a car, and then it targets Disney World. So what's happened is you move from the travel agent to the online travel agent to now somebody targeting you in an ad, you particularly, with the right date and the right price. That's pretty innovative, and they're selling, probably close to $1 billion of travel now. We did something at my company. Many of you have seen chatbots, where you can chat with an AI. That's growing very, very fast. And most millennials, and frankly I, would rather chat than talk to somebody. I don't have to worry about their accent. I don't have to worry if they can understand me. I can hang up and I don't care. And half the time I'm talking to a computer anyway, so I really don't care. We took our chatbot, very conversational, and put it in an ad. I think I might even have a, can I get back on? Can you turn me back on? Maybe it was just me. Oh, I just turned it off. Okay, hang on a second. I think I have this for the speech tomorrow. Yeah, let's look, because this is pretty interesting stuff. If I have it in here, I think I do. Yeah, so here's a chat that we developed at Wayblazer, and the question is, I want hotels in Singapore for our anniversary near Emerald Hill, under $10,000, flying out of Dallas, business class with a beautiful pool. That's the question. Now, you can't ask that question on any travel site today. It would be 27 filters. But look at the answer. There's Emerald Hill, there are the hotels, and what are the images? All beautiful pools. So that's AI, and if you looked at the reviews, they'd be about the hotel and the pool, right? Using AI to give the right answer at the right moment. I think that hasn't been done by very many people up to now. So there's lots to do.
How many people do you actually think that the bot is live?
Live person? Yeah, many people think that. And the cool thing to do, and there are companies doing this, let's say somebody's talking about 2 tickets to another part of Iceland. Let the robot talk to them. Let's say they're talking about 2 first-class tickets to Sydney. Give it to a person, right? And so you have the bot that's smart enough to say, hey, I want that $10,000. I'm going to take it from the robot and give it to a person. And that's happening today. People are doing that. What else? Somebody else has to have a question. We have a few more minutes. Yeah, let her bring the mic because we're streaming. Oh, you get the better mic.
Hi, my name is Hauker, CEO of SmartGuide. We already had the privilege of talking a bit earlier today. But I was kind of wondering, what has been the best way, in your opinion, to build a team of aces? So the A team of co-founders or team members for your company.
Well, a couple ways. I actually have something on that too. So let's here. I'll show you because. So were you at the talk yesterday? Or not? Okay. Well, not of course. Not everybody was, but I cut some things out of that one because it was a little long. So, I think the team is really important. I mean, 23% of startups fail because they don't have a good team. I think mixing cultures and mixing people, hiring people who aren't like you, people who will argue with you, because you want debate. Now, eventually you want to decide and move on. But I think William Wrigley of the gum company said, if 2 people in business always agree, one of them is irrelevant, right? You don't want agreement all the time. So Travelocity started inside of American Airlines, and I wanted to hire people from outside American Airlines, people who weren't working there. And the human resources people said, oh, you must hire from the inside first. I said, I already have those people. It took me 6 months to convince them. But they came in, and the industry was broken, only they could fix it. They had messianic zeal, but they didn't know travel. So on the other side, I had the .corp, the suits, who said the industry was fine, it didn't need fixing, they moved at a slow pace, but they had domain expertise, they knew travel. You put them together, they fought like cats in a bag. It was crazy. But out of that crucible came a $3 billion company. So mix it up. Hire people who weren't like you. And yeah. And then, I did say this yesterday, but you didn't all hear it. Don't hire your best friend. Don't. Hire the best person. It might be your best friend. Probably isn't. Maybe. Probably isn't. And so the CTO of Kayak was the best hiring manager I ever met. And he went everywhere, all around the world, to hire the best A-team players he could find. And as soon as he hired one, he said to him, who's the smartest person you know? And then he would go hire that person, if he could. And it wasn't about salary. He convinced them they were changing the world, because this is a Silicon Valley phrase, but rock stars do hang out with rock stars. I mean, that may be the only picture of Jagger and Lennon together, but they want to be in the A-team, and they want to change the world. And we went public with 200 people. Now, that's a pretty small group, because they were A players. And particularly in engineers, A engineers produce exponentially more than B engineers. I mean, it's really worth fighting to get the best engineers you can. So, paint a big picture, tell them they're going to change the world, hopefully they are, but don't. And this is what happens in corporations, you just get what you get. People apply, and that's why in startups, you really need to look hard for the people who you believe can really change things. Don't settle. If the person isn't good, keep looking. Anything else? I think we have 5 more minutes, so. No? Oop. Catching a bug. Going once, going twice. Oh, there's one in the back.
Thank you. I'm really inspired by your journey as like a 22-year-old entrepreneur. I'm thinking.
I'd love to be 22 again and do it.
Yeah.
That's when I did my first one. Yeah, I would.
Yeah. I was thinking if you have any advice on how to break into the U.S. market as someone from Iceland. It's
sure.
Just sort of general advice.
Well, I mean, we talked a lot about that today. I think your product, again, if you have the right product and the right team, and it's really differentiated, and, it's lucky because, you all speak English well, so that's not going to be a big barrier. I think the thing to do, I've talked to people today. Bala is introducing people to Techstars and, other angel groups. That's probably a good way to start. The nice thing today is to do a startup, you don't have to raise, $20 million bucks. Like one of the startups today said, well, they wanted to raise $2 million and go talk to VCs. I said, it's not going to work. You're going to have to raise $5 million, but they won't care. VCs just, in the US, $2 million, it's like, they won't waste their time. So you do better off to go talk to angels, and see, I'm on an angel group, most of the companies that see us are raising 1 to 2. And we'll get 3 or 4 angel groups together and we could pretty easily raise a couple million. But you're in Iceland, they don't know you, so what'd be good is if you can get either through SEO or SEM or social, you get a toehold in the market, you make sure that you can prove to them that US citizens care, and it's not just an Icelandic product. We talked about that today in travel. A couple of people. One guy said, well, I want my customers to be in the US and use an Iceland website to book airfares to Iceland. It's not going to happen. Would they book attractions here? Yeah, they probably would. But they're not going to book their air ticket this way. They might book their hotel. So, think about what are people really going to do. Don't try to change people's habits totally. You can't afford it, unless it's a totally amazing product. Uber, if you think about it, people already rode in cabs, and they already rode in limos. What is Uber? To me, it's a UI. It's just a different user interface, a much better one. But they use somebody else's asset, you know. So I think if you can get a toehold, you do better. But, you know, there are VCs in the U.S. who invest around the world. Try to, you know, use TechCrunch and other tools to look for them. If you can get a toehold in the market first, that's great. Make sure, you know, it appeals to the U.S. consumer, and you can make them understand that. I don't have a lot, but that's all I can give you. I don't have a lot of experience, you know, because I've only lived in the U.S., so I haven't tried to break in. It's hard enough when you live there. I mean, you're going to see 20, 30, 40 VCs before you know, it's like dating. It takes a while to find the right person. All right. Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. We have some coffee and fruit. Icelanders usually don't ask a lot of questions, but they chat
They do
over
better
coffee.
over coffee.
So maybe
That's
someone would like to ask Terry questions over the coffee, by the coffee table.
All
Thank you
right.
so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.